Tonight, we're going to talk about the latest Q post as well as a very controversial topic, the Israel question. Hi, I'm Craig and welcome to Just Informed Talk. For those of you who don't know, I start off each one of these episodes by saying thank you to each and every one of my subscribers. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible. And also, if you have not hit that subscribe button, just please come here to this landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications. That way, as soon as these videos get posted, you'll be notified because as soon as information is made available to me, I make it available to you. Now, today's Q post, well, there's not really one today. These are the latest Q posts as of a couple days ago. And what do they show us? Or what they show us is something that's really incredible when you put it into context with everything that we've been going over here. And tonight, what we're going to talk about is a few different things. First, we're going to talk about the Israel question. And I know this is a very controversial topic, but I had to cover it because I see so many varied opinions in the comments section where you have people who are just, they believe that Israel Zionist conspiracy is out to get us, and then others who believe that Israel's on our side, and then there's a lot of people who are in between, and it's just a very, very interesting discord that's going on down there. Now, a lot of it, there are some people who are, overtly using racially charged, epithets to describe Jewish people and others, but that's not what we're going to do here. We're going to talk about it rationally and logically, and we're going to just say what could actually be happening behind the scenes. Now, the first thing I want to point to is a Q post where he's responding to an AN0N here, and this is from March 10th. And the AN0N posts this picture here from what would probably be an article where it's talking about, we'll read through it. It says, whatever happened to this Pakistani guy who worked with the DNC? The president asked in an interview published Thursday by the New York Times. A grand jury in August returned an indictment in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia charging AN0N and his wife Hina Alvi with a total of 4 counts, which included federal bank fraud and conspiracy. AN0N has pleaded not guilty to all charges. Whatever happened to them, Trump continued, with the 2 servers that they broke into 1 million pieces? Whatever happened to him? And the AN0N post, what about AN0N? Is Israel involved? And Q says, quote, he says, we are saving Israel for last. Very specific reason not mentioned a single time. Interesting. And we go back to the latest posts here, and they're talking about the Israel disclosure, which we went over. If you guys want to watch that in the last video, right here, you guys can watch that. It's a breakdown of Bibi Netanyahu. And then I put in there what Trump said in response, and I also put something that I thought was very important, and it was a clip from the Tucker Carlson show where they talk about how there is no benefit to the United States by going to war with Iran, and that basically this is a war that is wanted by Saudi Arabia and Israel, and they've decided to come together on this issue because they both despise Iran. And they're going to try to use us to make that war possible, or at least to get us out of the way. Because right now, with the way this Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action deal stands, is we really are keeping Israel and Saudi Arabia and other countries at bay right now with their intention to destroy Iran, being one of self-preservation in their minds. They see Iran as a clear and present danger and a true threat to their safety. Now, why would you say this? Well, although Iran has not been at war per se in a very long time, it is very obvious that there are factions inside of Iran that are supporting radical Islamic terror groups around the countries in the Middle East. So that is certainly something to be taken into account. But the same thing is happening in other countries, such as Saudi Arabia. As we know, it's been disclosed now that most of the hijackers from 9/11 came out of Saudi Arabia. So this is not some game that's being played one way. There's definitely both ways of it. And let's not forget the fact that Israel has been in charge of making, or has been accused of doing some pretty dirty deeds in the past. Now, that's not to say that Israel as a whole is a bad entity. Now, I think that's what people tend to do here. They tend to just think of Israel as this monolithic, singular push toward global domination. And there very well could be parts of the Israeli government, parts of the Israeli banking elite and everything else who are definitely involved and entrenched in doing some pretty nefarious stuff to undermine the countries that aren't Jewish or aren't Israeli. But I don't think it's the whole country. And I also don't believe that you could paint that broad a brush truly in a fair manner, no matter how you slice that. But that's my personal opinion. A lot of you are certainly entitled to your own opinion. Now, the comparison would obviously be to the United States, where you have the deep state going up against Trump and what he's bringing in, and that are being seen as good actors. So obviously it is a very tricky thing to be looked at, but a lot of people don't trust Bibi Netanyahu. A lot of people don't trust Israel. A lot of people don't trust Saudi Arabia. A lot of people don't trust Iran. Well, I'm here to tell you, you're right not to trust them, because Bibi Netanyahu is looking out for Israel. The Ayatollah is looking out for Iran, and the king of Saudi Arabia is looking out for Saudi Arabia. Okay? I'm just saying that it is very, very interesting to see the dynamic that's created, especially in the comment section. As I go through them, first I hear a person here writes me a question. Seems like a nice person who frequents watching these videos. Says, Craig, I applaud you. My only question is, we know Iran has nuke cap. What about Israel? Israel has nukes but never disclose. What about USS Liberty use false flag and get our patriots for Zionist war again? And talking about how the Congress media financed all by Zionists, and when we are going to wake up about Zionist propagandas and a lot of things about Zion. And trust me, guys, I'm bringing you the milder ones here. But people agreeing, and then people, obviously, if you go down, there's some people that don't agree. There is a debate to be had here, but what a lot of people are pointing to, though, is basically that Zionism, which for those of you who don't know what Zionism, I'll just give you a quick explanation in a broad sense, layman's explanation. Zionism is a movement that was started to recreate the Jewish state in the Middle East, particularly near and around Jerusalem and the holiest sites of their religion and Christianity, and even in a lot of cases Islam as well. So what is the point of it today? Well, it's evolved into protecting the state of Israel, and the Zionists are they've been accused of Zionist expansion, which would basically be talking about the way that they're near Palestine and right there bordering them, and they are working actively to reclaim settlements that they take historical claim to. Now, this is a lot of the Jews who are on the front lines there in Israel, who are moving into these settlements and trying to reclaim land that they believe is rightfully theirs. And you have on the same side Palestinians who want that land for themselves as well. So do I think as an American citizen that we should be over there fighting their war for them? No. But do I believe as a Christian that we must support Israel? The answer would be yes. So it is very interesting to see that divergence between what we have going on as a governmental situation in Israel, an expansionist movement out of Israel. Then we have the biblical sense, which is our duty to support and defend Israel. So I'm not torn at all. I go with God first, right? So my basic thought is that there's evil within Israel, just as there's evil everywhere. It's not like it's specifically contained within Israel. And there's probably many people who are fighting to take what they can just to make what they can, right? If that makes sense as far as money, power, whatever. But there are surely those who are good actors that lay within those confines of being considered a Israeli Zionist. So let's be clear. This is my opinion. Each and every one of you are entitled to your own opinion, and I'd love to hear them in the comments, because this is how we settle issues. This is how we as human beings, intelligent beings, have discord and discussion together, where we actually make progress. We don't just continually talk about how we're right and everyone else is wrong. We take the time to listen to others' arguments, but in my case, I stand by what I believe, and I'd love for you to try to change my mind. Or if you want to agree with me, you can agree with me. Or if you want to talk about it in general, talk about it in general. But let me remind you that you're not contributing anything when you're using racial slurs or epithets. You're not contributing anything when you're using vulgarities to describe who they are or how they are. You're not contributing when you're doing those kind of things that merely turn the person you see as your enemy into your target for hate. Now, I don't care. You have free speech. Say whatever you want. I'm just telling you that when you say that stuff, you're not contributing to the broader dialogue. You're not contributing to the collective conversation where we're actually trying to solve these issues and figure them out, as opposed to continue to use hatred as a tool to deter others from seeking a common ground and understanding. So please remember that as we go forward. Now, Sarah A. Carter makes a great point here, and I want to read this to you. This is talking about what the Obama administration left us in Iran. Okay? So this is Ben Rhodes, and she's replying to him, and Ben Rhodes says, to summarize, this week's absurdity: the same people who have always opposed the Iran deal argue it should be scrapped, even though Iran is complying because of something Iran did before the deal, and its inspections regime was put in place to prevent Iran from doing those things. Now, here's the beauty of it. Sarah Carter says, sure they are, Ben. The Obama administration gave Iran everything up front and a sunset clause, not smart negotiating tactics. Well, it's obvious, and for those of you who don't know what a sunset clause is, that's basically a clause that you write into a piece of legislation or a deal that says, in this case, a deal where it says, the deal will be effective to this date in the future, but you'll have to vote, and if you want that, you'll have to legislatively get it assessed and then passed again if you want it to continue. And what she's saying here is that Obama made the genius move, which, in my opinion, was purposefully done, is in what some are saying is an alleged criminal act of giving this money, all of this 1.7 billion cash and 150 billion, and Q even says it's up to 250 billion, gave that to them up front. I think it's 250 if you count all the other stuff that they unfroze and assets. But listen, the fact is this, or that they're planning to unfreeze and give to them. I don't know. But the fact is this. What she's pointing out is a great point about the whole Iran conflict. This is all about a deal that was made before Trump got in office. Now, what I believe is what we're seeing here, right, with the this Operation Eager Lion, okay? And what is Eager Lion? It's U.S. Marines and U.S. sailors training with the Jordanian Marines for battle in the Middle East. And Jordan has these great landscapes and terrains where, if you look at these pictures of where they're at, they have these great hills, mountains, deserts that they can get into and train. And it's very similar to somewhere like Iran. And you see here, they're doing this training combat, and they're working on all these things. Now, does everybody remember? I mean, it seems like people have a short memory, But first of all, Eager Lion is obviously what Q was referring to when he kept saying Iron Eagle, Iron Eagle, Iron Eagle. Because if you just switch two letters here, um, you can make the word eagle and iron. So here, let me just say this. This is the whole push was that they're going to use this as a negotiating tactic, in my opinion, with Iran, saying basically, we are ready for invasion. Now, what I'm saying when people have a short memory is when we're talking about North Korea. Now, first of all, let's remember how the media was losing their minds thinking about how Kim Jong-un is going to start World War III, or Trump's going to start it with him. And we were having our military exercises, and little Kim was shooting his rockets all over the place. And it was a show of strength, and it was a show of resolve, and it was a show of that we're not going to back down. Now, we're hoping that what Trump referred to, or what Q referred to, earlier, was that when we shot the missiles into, let's say, Syria, for instance, we were targeting maybe possibly a nuclear development facility that was from an Iranian one that was put into northern Syria. Who knows, right? We can't verify that information yet, but we can say this, that it's the same thing happening here with Iran. So we're going in, we're showing that steadfast resolve that, we will commit troops to this. We will commit the manpower to get the job done. And you can either get on board, or you can get behind, or get out of the way, right? So this is what I think it's doing. It's trying to negotiate from a position of power. I think that's one of Trump's best qualities, and that's what we're going into this Iran renegotiation with, because, guys, excuse me, in 3 days, I believe, May 5th, we're going to actually have to reevaluate that Iran deal, and then Trump has to decide whether he wants to ratify the deal or renegotiate the deal or just get rid of the deal altogether. That's going to be a decision that he's going to have to make. And my thought and my money is on this. Everything that's going on, obviously, Saudi Arabia and Israel have their own interests at heart. And I don't agree with pretty much either of their regimes' choice for tactics. So what they're doing is they're trying to paint this picture that Iran is actively running a nuclear program. Now, is Iran actively running a nuclear program? Maybe, maybe not. The possibility is that this is stuff that they legitimately went and put away after they had a nuclear weapon program, and it's old. But considering that alternative, then you're brought with a few other conclusions that kind of you have to agree with Bibi Netanyahu to a degree if he says stuff like, it proves the intent to have a future reinvestment in that nuclear weapon program. Yes, that is very true and very possible, because that's why else would they catalog and keep all that information? A lot of people have said, why are they keeping all the information in books and CDs? Quite simply put, those are two things that are not affected by electromagnetic pulse waves. So it would be a good way to keep that information in case there was actually a nuclear or an EMP blast. So that's what I think. That's what I see happening here with the Iran nuclear deal, where we're headed, how that's all going to end up playing itself out, because there's so much going on here right now that we can still talk about that's just incredible. So, for instance, today, we need to pray for the soldiers who lost their lives today. We need to pray for them and their families. I believe 5 soldiers, from what I hear so far, killed after a military cargo plane crashes near a Savannah airport in Georgia. And apparently these were National Guard. This was a plane that came out of the Puerto Rican National Guard, out of Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rico National Guard. So it was a C-130 plane. It went down, and it seems that everyone on board was killed. But one thing I want to point to is that there's been a very high number of plane crashes and helicopter crashes here on American soil with American troops training. And that is worrisome in and of itself, and it's a cause for like I've been still working on trying to find the exact charity I want to give to, but I've narrowed it down to exactly, I think, who I want to give to. But we're losing soldiers here. And Q said in a post on April 27th, right here, it's an anon posting to Q saying, Q, the normies only watch CNN. They don't even know any of this is happening. We're too smug. And Q responds to that post saying, hope not. Might as well go sit in the CIA. Russia grounding our military planes in Syria. Military aircraft crashing in U.S. Coincidence? Audis need Red Bull? Q. So the military aircraft crashing in the U.S. is not a coincidence, I don't believe, in my opinion, especially when you consider the fact that there's actual lives being lost on a regular occurrence now. Whereas, like, I mean, just for an example, I haven't seen anything about any commercial flights going down. Besides, the last one I saw was that the engine exploded, and we went over that in a prior post. But if that's what's going on out there, what is the statistical likelihood of having 4 or 5 or 6 aircraft crash due to like mechanical failure and other things in 3 months or so, 3 or 4 months? I mean, statistically, it's just not very likely, especially with the military, who are incredibly good at maintaining equipment. But does this all tie back to what Q said about us getting bad equipment and making bad deals that the Obama administration and administrations before were in charge of, getting us bad steel and bad helicopter equipment parts? And I mean, could you imagine if we bought cheap steel and it was all a part of this plan by, let's say, hypothetically, the Chinese or the Russians to give us defective steel so that we would end up putting that in our military grade aircraft, and then eventually and then having all these planes that just fall out of the sky because, who knows, the rotor snaps off in the middle of a mission because of the weak steel that was used. That would be the kind of warfare that you would think would be being waged against us, because it would be an effective way to weaken our military. And that's got to be the goal of every other country out there who's not the United States. I mean, we have allies, of course, but ultimately each country is always going to look out for their own interests first. So we have to keep that in mind when we deal with any country, just like the Iran thing that we went over. But that is where I think a lot of these plane crashes are going for. And that's one of the reasons why I really am dedicated to donating to these charities. And I encourage you all to find a charity. And I'll go over it at the end, which ones I'm really considering. And I think I've made a decision. So I'll let you guys know here. But we're going to get into one more thing. This post, which is related back to a Q post here, where No Name Out now, and it gives this Twitter post from Lindsey Graham saying how he doesn't trust James Comey and he thinks he's a liar and so on and so forth, and how the FBI hated Trump, so on and so forth. The head investigator hated Trump. And Q says, we love good singers. Now, a lot of people point out that McCain is the songbird, right? And No Name is obviously McCain, as we all know. And they call him Songbird McCain because it's alleged that he basically sang like canary when he was shot down and taken by the enemy forces during Vietnam. But that's all alleged too. There's no proof to back that up. But no, there's some certain things you can look at, but I'm not going to touch that one yet, because all I'm going to say is this, that McCain's out with his new book talking about how Trump prioritizes appearance of toughness over American values. And who knows how John McCain defines American values? They probably go something along the lines of sell out to China and sell out to the highest bidder, sell out to the Vietnamese, sell out to whoever will pay the most. But that's a guess. I don't know. And it also is talking about how John McCain is going to retire now, and he's going to retire because he's wants to be able to speak his mind freely. Let me think. yeah, you guys let me know what you think about McCain, but this is the kind of guy who has said before um, things about Trump that are just crazy, and just things in general that don't make any sense given where his allegiance should be, which is with the American people and his constituents who obviously are not getting what they voted for if he's doing these things that have been alleged, especially here on the QAnon boards. So I want to say thank you so much to everybody. That's going to be basically it for this episode. I know you guys are going to have a lot to say down in the comments, so please go down there and leave your comments. That's a great way to contribute. Another great way to contribute is that if you have not hit the subscribe button, please come here and click the big red subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications. That way you'll be informed as soon as these videos get posted. But another way you can help is to come over here to Patreon, patreon.com, search Just Informed Talk, click this button to become a patron, and all of your contributions truly help keep this channel going. So come check out my rewards and my goal. It's not just a one-way street. When you donate, you get something in return. And I want to say thank you to everybody who has been here from the beginning and everybody who keeps contributing. Also, a note to everybody who contributed, and your t-shirts will be on their way. So tonight, we're going to take a special moment here to talk about the most important thing as usual, and that is God's grace. Why is God's grace greater? Well, we have to remember that in these times when we feel like we know everything, times when we feel like we have, or we don't know everything, I should say, excuse me, and times when we feel like we're not getting any progress, we're not getting the full scope of what's going on, we're not seeing the 4D chest, and maybe we're even playing into certain parts of it that we don't want to play into. Well, that's when we have to turn back to God. That's when we have to remember that we don't know everything, that no matter how much you do know, you can't know everything, and there is only so much that God wants us to know in certain areas of certain things. Because God has a plan for us, and part of that plan is us learning things as they come and learning them as they're given to us by the Lord to learn. So we have to trust that plan first. So we can trust Q's plan and what he's doing, but we need to trust the plan that God has laid out for us first. And why it's so important to talk about things like Israel and just confront them straightforward is that God commands us to love our neighbor. God commands us to be the light to shine unto the world for him. And we have to truly love our neighbors, and we can't be true Christians if we just harbor hate in our heart all the time. It's understandable. We're imperfect. We may hate at some time in our life or multiple times when things happen. We can try not to. We can do our best to stay humble and to stay centered and focused on God. But we have to embrace God's love for ourselves. And that way we can share it with others. We have to embrace God's love in ourselves, so that way we can show it to others. So, I mean, what I like to do is I like to pray. And I know I'm not perfect. I know I don't have all the answers up here. I wish truly I did, because it would be an honor and a privilege to share the truth, that the ultimate universal truth, I guess you would say, that is lying right in front of us, but we can't see it. But what I can do is I can share the truth of what I know. I can share the truth of my faith, and my religion is that of Christianity. I'm a Christian. I love God. I love my fellow men and women, and I just want everyone to understand that harboring hatred in your heart is not what God wants for you. So even if you despise the tactics, the globalists, the Luciferians, the pedophiles, the people, the bad Zionists, bad actors in general, temper all of that with God's love. Embrace God's love to yourself. And if you're one of those people who I read in the comments who says, I'm an atheist, and I'd shut off your video right when you start talking about God, you're missing out on this. And I feel sorry for you. And I pray that your heart opens up to God and that you get that inner peace and that love, because that's the whole reason I do this. You know, it is a job. I do get compensated, but I work 6 or 7 days a week, and I get to do what I love, which is share the word of God with you guys and to bring you guys closer to God, hopefully, so that you can bring others closer, so that we can reverse this tide, where you turn on the TV and there's a show about Lucifer and everyone's glorifying Satan in the music and the evil that surrounds us. Sometimes we need to step back and examine our own environment too and say, how am I being a Christian today? How am I contributing to the good today? What am I going to do to make God first in my life, but then make everyone else see how great God is? Because trust me, you will be blessed by the Lord if you reach out to him and put him first every single day. So that's where I'm going to leave it. I want to say thank you all for watching. That's going to be it for me today, unless there's more Q posts, which I will keep you posted as soon as that comes up. But remember to stay tuned for upcoming videos. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. If you have not hit that subscribe button, please come here and hit that subscribe button. That helps me out big time. But other than that, remember that God loves you and that you are stronger than the evil that exists in the world, and you have to just call to God to give you that strength, and he can unlock it right from within you. So that's going to be it for me. I want to say thank you for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.